I'm all right. I'm all right. You got a busy schedule today?
Oh yeah, always. How's your car?
It's good. It's better. It's better. It's like it's fairly new. Like I recently bought it and it was having like these issues where we would just the engine would cut out. And
Yeah.
I took it to the dealership and it was under warranty, so I didn't have to pay for it. But they were like, it was just like a glitch in like, these cars like nowadays, they're like computers.
Yeah.
What were
Yeah.
you saying? I'm sorry.
Oh no, that's exactly what I said was the computers. They're
Yeah.
just that's what gets messed up.
Yeah. So it's like it's not like before where you just had four wheels and in a body. It's now it's like you're driving your like driving a computer at home, but just it has wheels. So
Totally. Be just like the littlest thing. It can be the spark plug. It can be just something so minor where you have
mhm.
to reroute everything to figure it out.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I mean, I got that taken care of, so that's good. I appreciate you changing up your time for me and everything like that. So
For sure. Sure.
awesome.
Yeah,
So
pretty flexible. So
that's good. So how's like COVID and everything been affecting you?
Um, well, in terms of life in general, I'm a medical sales rep, so I'm able to still work from home. I still coach to all of my athletes.
Hmm.
So that hasn't been a huge factor. Obviously in terms of the gyms, in terms of any sort of socializing whatsoever, we got hit pretty hard up here. I'm in
Hmm.
Washington State.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
yeah, we were one of the hubs that got pretty bad. So we're still technically in quarantine. We do have some gyms open now, some private facilities. So I've been able to train there. For it's probably been the last 3 to 4 weeks, so that's been good. But I also have a home gym, so I've been able to kind of keep everything going. And being in prep and everything during this time frame has just been twilight zone. It's been
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's been like that for like a lot of places, but like in your area of like New York and all those like areas that got hit really hard, it's just been so much worse.
Oh, completely. Well, and I really wasn't expecting it to be this bad here, just because we're not overly congested where I'm at. I'm like 20 minutes outside of Portland to just cross the river into Washington. But just in terms of the state, Seattle and everything up north, yeah, it definitely got us. So
Yeah, it's recently I've been reading that it's on the rise again in some places, which I mean
yeah.
is not totally unexpected because with everybody just coming back together, like like it doesn't exist.
Well, and I think that's the problem that we're going to see. And since I'm in medical, I have a little bit more hands-on, knowing
Mhm.
kind of how bad it is and what's going on. And that's the biggest thing that everybody's predicting is it's just going to keep spiraling up, spiraling up. It's just more people coming in contact with others. It's just
Yeah. Yeah, and say something again. I think I might have lost your volume.
oh, okay.
Okay, I got it. I got it. No, you're fine. You're
Okay.
fine. You're fine. Um, so yeah, and like if you see some of the, with all the protests going on and everybody being so close, there was a picture from LA from one of the protests, and it was like the entire area was like shoulder to shoulder with people. I mean, it must have been thousands of people, and
I know.
that's perfect for like a COVID situation.
Well, and I kind of look at all the stuff that's happened in the world recently. It's literally, it is kind of like the memes that have been being put out about revelations and how
Uh-huh.
bad, because really it's like, what else can we do right now? Like, what else can happen?
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, the protests happen, and we're right in the middle of a pandemic. And so
Mhm.
what do we think's going to happen with that?
Yeah,
So,
sure, sure. Yeah, no, it's terrible. So you said to kind of go on the lighter mood, you said you do have a home gym that you train at?
yeah, we acquired that like as soon as we realized we were going to be in lockdown. It was something that was pretty important. So we got
Mhm.
on it before all the craziness, before everybody started charging an arm and a leg just to get a plate. So
It was like a 45 like pound plate was going for like ridiculous amounts.
like
I was,
dollars. Like it
yeah.
was really bad. So We got lucky. We got lucky.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. I was like, if you have a home gym, like we have a little one that we were able to get together right before. It's obviously nothing like going to the gym, but it was something, you know.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Well, and that's kind of, it was funny, you attempt with the bands and like the 20-pound dumbbells for like a day,
yeah,
and you're really like, we can't,
yeah.
no, we can't do that.
Yeah, it's like it's kind of like one of those things where it's like I still trained and I still like didn't see like significant decreases, but when I went back to the gym, because we've been open now for like 3 weeks or so, maybe a
Yeah.
month, I could tell the difference in the soreness. Like I was much more sore going to the gym, back to the gym, than I was when training at home, you know.
Oh, completely, completely.
So
Everything changed. And again, I think that this is a true testament. The people that, stayed on it and stayed, even if they were, very minimal equipment and everything like that. But
yeah.
it definitely made a difference when we got back to the gym. The gym, the motivation, the variety that you have there, the energy, it's just totally different.
Yeah. There, a lot of it was eating too, right? Like you might not lose a ton of muscle, but if people just kind of gave up and they started eating, nonsense.
Well, and it's so funny in, the competitor world, of course, all of us are pretty close. We stay in
Mhm.
touch, via social media, and we're all tabs on where everybody's at, how their prep's going, and whatnot, and kind of cheering each other on. And it was really sad and hard to watch because a lot of, folks just had to fall off. It was too
Mhm.
long of a time frame to hold conditioning. It was just, kind of the unknown if we are even going to have shows this year, how it was going to look.
Right.
So I know that there's probably only a few of us left. And then the good side of it is that since they moved the Olympia to December, a lot of my Wings of Strength girls had they could go into off season essentially and then come back out
Mhm.
and get back into prep. So
Yes. So when you say your girls, are you referring to people you're coaching,
no,
or
no, no.
just friends that you have?
Yeah, Wings of Strength. I'm part of Wings of Strength, and with, the group, the female bodybuilders, and
Hmm.
so we all kind of stay in touch. And that was something. A lot of them were already geared up to compete. May, even before that, and
Hmm.
they had to pull out, go into off season, and then kind of reboot. So
Yeah, I mean, that's tough to do, right? Because like you're trying to peak, and then now that you don't have a show, you're kind of like, well, you don't know what to do. It's like, do you come off? Do you not? Do you continue
yeah.
try to diet? I mean,
Well, and that's the thing, is this is probably the most time sensitive sport. You
mhm.
have to, everything's timed, meals are timed, training's timed according to meals, sleep, everything is timed. And so you can't just say, we'll just keep going. We'll just see what happens.
We'll just wing it. Yeah, it's not gonna work.
And because I'm on the other side of it too, being a coach, I had a lot of athletes that I had to tell them, I can't hold you with this conditioning any
Hmm.
longer. We've got to reverse, or we've got to figure out another game plan. So
Right, right.
yeah.
So what like future steps are for you now with COVID, like kind of still being here, but now you have like you said, Olympia was pushed back. Now you might see some other shows. Like, do you have like an idea of a show that you're gonna do, or are you,
Yeah.
what are you thinking?
So I have some plans. So I'm working with Shelby Starnes, and he and I just started kind of figuring out what's going to be the best method to this madness. And originally we had planned to do nationals in Miami
Mhm.
um, in November, and that's still about 23 weeks away. But I think I'm going to be ready way before then, and so we're looking at possibly doing North Americans, which is in September, and then there's also Wings of Strength, Miss International, that's in October. So we have options,
Mhm.
as to which will be the best and when my body's going to be peaked.
Mhm.
So, and I could do a couple. We'll just see kind of what happens and how it rolls out.
So okay, so the Wings of Strength, is that a professional or amateur show?
So that's a pro-am. So it's actually the Miss International and Chicago Pro in one show.
Okay, I see.
They just days. So I did that one last year. And
Mm-hmm.
so on Friday they have all the amateurs that are going for their pro card, and then on Saturday they have the pro show.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha.
Cool.
Yeah.
Venue.
Yeah, I mean, I know that was a big deal because with them, a while back, removing bodybuilding, women's bodybuilding from the Olympia, and then is it Jake? What's
Was
the last Wood? Yeah, he kind of kept them there with the show. Now he owns the Olympia, so
yes.
that was a big deal for all the women that are in that
Oh,
division.
man. It was so it was monumental. Like this, Jake has been such a huge factor in keeping us going, and he's put on some of the best shows. And also Tim Gardner is another one that promotes a lot of the shows too. Alina Popa, who is kind of she manages all the Wings of Strength and really has a huge hand in it, and Linda Murray too. It's just been a great organization to be part of, like to keep that positive, that positivity when it comes to women's bodybuilding, also doing it the right way, maintaining so much femininity, but also having the women's bodybuilding back in it.
Right. Do you think, let me get your opinion on this. Do you think that's the biggest struggle for female bodybuilding, is that it's not like, I don't want to say it's not feminine. It's like, because you have so much more muscle, you have to balance it, kind of like the femininity
Yeah.
aspect of it.
Yes, I think it's just like if you look at historically what happened with the men's bodybuilding, Ronnie Coleman and whatnot, you got to these astronomical sizes and huge guys. It just kept getting bigger and bigger. And then at that point, how do you even do it? How do you even judge it? Well, that's what happened with women's bodybuilding, is that, they wanted to win and they were competitive, and it just kept getting more and more extreme. So I think tapering it back down and kind of giving it back its authenticity, bringing it back to its home space and keeping the really feminine lines, but also having that musculature was really huge. And that was a huge part of Wings of Strength, what they were able to accomplish.
Yeah. Well, so with female physique, some people are also saying that like female physique is getting bigger. All the divisions, they're saying, are getting bigger. At what point do you like start seeing blurs in those lines between like bodybuilding, women's bodybuilding, and physique?
Yeah, it's happening right now. And that's another thing that, I try to do when it comes to anyone asking my opinion where they belong, whether it be women's bodybuilding, whether it be women's physique. I think that what they should focus on doing or thinking about doing with women's physique is doing more of like what they do in classic. They should have a height and weight requirement for women's physique. I think that would help keep them in the good place, because as it stands, some of these girls are bigger than women's bodybuilders. I'm like, those girls could beat me for sure, and everything. And they're technically supposed to be smaller than I am. So, I think if there was one thing that they could do in order to kind of keep that under wraps and kind of keep a guideline, is to do what they do in classic physique and have a weight and height requirement.
Do you think that's good all across the board in all divisions, or just in women's physique?
I think especially when you're dealing with structurally something like women's physique and structurally something like classic for men, where it is still trying to have a certain look and a certain flow to the body, you're just going to, it's going to be all over the place if you don't have some sort of requirements they have to meet for their body type or for their weight. Whereas women's bodybuilding, you do have some variety in the looks, and the weight can drastically depend on how tall they are and everything too. I think it just, women's bodybuilding, it's still something that we should be able to kind of go in open and have to worry about that stuff. But I think if we're going to separate women's physique and women's bodybuilding, that's the way I would do it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I mean, that makes sense, because otherwise it just gets out of control.
Yeah. Did I lose you? Oh,
Ah,
there
no,
you
you're
are.
fine. Yeah, your video just cut out, but that's okay. And yeah, yeah, that's interesting, because like you look at somebody who's like Dale Lynn Bailey, who won the first women's physique Olympia. I mean, now she would not even crack any. I mean,
Yeah. And that's a popular thing that we hear a lot of, and we talk a lot about, is that, you know, going back to when women's physique originated, it was an entirely different look. You know, it was truly bringing that middle ground between uh, a figure competitor and a bodybuilder. And it was great because it wasn't as shredded as a female bodybuilder. At least that's the way it started. It wasn't supposed to be as shredded. But they still had more musculature to them and their shape and everything. So now when we're looking at these girls, and just like we're talking about, you could put them in open women's bodybuilding and they do really well too.
yeah.
So it's
What do you think about Shani Grant as far
she's
as?
beautiful. I think she's going to hold it for a long time because she is a genetic freak.
Yeah, I think she is the epitome of what that division should look like. And she will probably hold it for a very long time, barring any kind of crazy happening. But I feel like she's like one of the only ones. Do you know what I'm trying to say? So she's winning it, and she's the epitome. But besides her, everyone else is like either looks like a bodybuilder, or like they're on the other end, like they're closer to figure, you know?
Well, and it's completely, and again, this is where we start getting into the talk about genetics. You know, genetics do play a huge role in that. And because just like we're saying, you can tell if somebody has to push the envelope more to try to put on size and try to grow in certain areas, because then their entire body's going to grow essentially. Whereas she has that beautiful flow to her body. Her symmetry is beautiful. Her muscles pop where they need to pop. And she's still so young. She's still so she's going to hold it for a long time unless you know something else happens.
Right. Barring like injury or something like that. But outside of that, I mean, I don't see anybody taking, anything from her. So it's just she's so far ahead of everybody else, It's
She can bring the symmetry, the shape, the conditioning, everything. And that's usually we're dealing with some pieces missing to that puzzle when it comes to. I mean, Natalia is beautiful too, but even her shape isn't where Shanique's is. So
yeah. Have you ever considered trying to drop down, go to physique?
So I actually did do some dual entry shows before I went national, before I started nationally, and I actually loved the posing, and I kind of believe I'm pretty good when it comes to my posing for both. I coach posing for all divisions, and so I hold myself to being a pretty good poser. And I absolutely loved the posing for women's physique, but I had to stretch it out a lot because I'm only 5'2.5", and to have this much mass on 5'2.5", you have to know how to work your lines really well. And I just don't think I could.
I like how you added the half. You're like 5'2.5".
Oh, that half matters so much, so much.
That's so funny. So what do I see like I'm looking in the background. I see like a picture. Is that, I can't tell from this.
Oh yeah. This is just one of my national shows right there, and then swords.
Okay. I was trying to figure out with the swords, were they like were they trophies for competitions?
Yes.
Or was this like self-defense?
Zombie apocalypse.
Yeah, there you go. That might be useful now,
That's what I just need to sharpen them. They're dull as so I need to just get them ready. But yeah, those are from some overalls. Gotcha. And so yeah, for sure. I would love to have some like battle axes or something, but I didn't do it. I know our Sam.
Do they give out like anything outside of the swords?
Yeah, I mean, obviously I have regular trophies too, but I mean, everybody wants like some sort of weapon. I mean, that's the coolest thing that you could get.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, especially like if you're into like bodybuilding and muscle and like large, like being large, yeah, you go like that whole Viking like style goes along with it, you know?
Well, I am a Viking, if you want to know.
Oh,
So
really?
I'm Norwegian and Irish, so I'm like a drunk Viking.
You know what's interesting? I just started making mead. I don't know. Do you know what mead is?
Yeah, ew, I saw you post that.
Yeah. So it's like it actually turned out really good. Like I was like, oh, this might be a new gig. Like
What made you get into that?
so when I was in Europe, originally I'm from Russia. So
Mm,
when I was in Europe, just visiting with my wife, we went to this place. It's like its shtick is like medieval style. They're all dressed medieval, like all that stuff. And
that's so
yeah, they had meat on there, and like so I tried it, and I thought it was great. So then I went online. I was like, look, like how do I make this like stuff?
cool.
So now I've got gallons of meat. I'm just giving it away.
Oh my gosh. No, you need to sell. You need to sell it, profit from it. That
Yeah,
is so
that's coming eventually. This is my first batch.
you're like, give
I'm getting people hooked. Yeah,
yeah. Yeah, this is just a taste. Get them going.
that's funny. So, what do you think as far as like since we have this lull of training, and even those who were able to train for the most part weren't training the way they needed to? Do you think we're going to see like a diminished Olympia at this point?
Yeah, there was a lot of talk, and I obviously not only just being a bodybuilder, but I'm just a huge fan of bodybuilding and have been for so long. And that goes across the board with all divisions. That was my biggest question that I posed to a lot of people, especially when we were running out of shows to qualify people. Like, were they going to do an invitational? Like, how were they going to put this out there so that they
Right.
actually competitors that could, you know, fill the stage?
Yeah.
So, I I think that you're going to have a mix. I think you're going to have, obviously, professionals know how to get it done. However, I still think that you're going to have the people that stayed the course, like myself, that stayed through prep and just made do. Or you're going to have people that tried to do an off season and come back into it, depending on what shows they're doing. So I think that there's going to be a variety of looks that we're going to see.
It's
And,
not.
and it's going to be weird. Like, there's going to be a lot of strange people that just couldn't peak in time because everything was off, because again, this is so time sensitive.
Mhm.
But at the end of the day, a lot of the folks that are professionals, that's their job,
Right.
is to come ready. So I would hope to do it.
Yeah, I mean, I also imagine people that are like that are at the elite level will find a gym, whether if they own their own or they know somebody, they'll just let them in to train.
And I think that's been the case for especially a lot of the pros. I mean, I do have my female pro friends. I know that there's some that just couldn't, but I think when it comes to the men, I think a lot of them, any private gyms, like, take it,
Yeah.
take it. Do what you need. I'm sure that they were hooked up pretty well.
Yeah. As I was looking at Flex Lewis's like gym, and it's like it looks amazing. I'm like,
Amazing. I
uh,
know. That's what I'm talking about. If they don't own a gym themselves, like,
right.
yeah. What do you think? What do you think about Flex Lewis doing the Open?
So I really like Flex's look.
Yeah.
So like I think he looks great. I think that's like I'm not extremely tall guy. I'm not an extremely tall guy. I'm like 5'9"
Yeah.
so or so. So like for me to look at him, I'm like, man, that's the look that I want. The problem and he looks huge, but still like really lean, and he's got the right structure. My worry is that he's gonna run into people with just as good of structure and then bigger, and then they're gonna reward that they're bigger than him. You know what I'm saying? Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
No, it completely does. And I'm losing my train of thought. The guy that got second this last.
Um, what is his name? Are you talking about the guy from Iran?
Yes, and I
Uh, I know exactly who you're talking about.
That is,
But yeah,
yeah, the same situation where, he could have done 212, but he wanted,
Ashkenani, is it
yeah,
Ashkenani? Yeah.
but he decided to do open. I think that with Flex Lewis, from what I know of him and what they've said during his preps, is that he had to suck down so hard to get into 212s and
Mm.
sacrifice so much muscle. So that's the one thing I'm looking at, is maybe it's an even better look.
Yeah.
Because
So I didn't know that. So yeah, then maybe you're right, because if he has to cut that much weight, and then he might even be better. Like
yeah,
you said.
that's what I'm talking about. That was his big push for moving to open, was the fact that it was so painful for him to suck down to 212.
Yeah, yeah. It's a good point that you brought up, Ashkenani, because he does have a very similar structure and look to Flex, and he got second. So that's
Hmm.
that's if
And
that tells anything. Yeah.
and one thing that we look at is that the 212 guys historically always are super crispy, super
Mhm.
conditioned, whereas the open guys, because they have more mass to them, they're not always holding that condition.
Yeah. What do
So
you think? Oh, so I'm sorry. Go ahead.
go ahead.
What do you think about the whole, like, I hate to use this phrase, but like the bubble gut, or like that big gut
Yeah,
situation, like that's
yeah,
going on now, or at least people are noticing it now.
yeah. I actually think it was a huge issue, and I'm glad they started making noise about it. I personally, because I am so short, to maintain my X frame really well, I'm a big advocate of stomach vacuuming
Hmm.
and kind of bringing that old school look back. And I think that kind of stemmed from the fact that I saw so much distension in the guts, in the abdomens, and it's not cute.
It's not
It's not.
attractive. It's not a good
It's
look.
not. It kind of, literally, it like takes away so much. It's like seeing Santa Claus and then seeing his beard ripped off. Like, it's like it takes away the illusion of
Right.
what you want to see. You want to see this amazing X frame with this tiny waist, big old, back and
Mhm.
legs, but then they turn to the side, it's like flip,
Right.
just like
Right.
so.
Right, and that's the thing. It's like sometimes like see pictures in magazines or whatever, and like especially like when I was younger, because it was already starting to be a problem even when I was started kind of getting into fitness and bodybuilding, and and you would see these magazines and the guys would look amazing, but then like you'll see them in competition and you're like, oh, that doesn't quite look like that, and that's because they're taking these pictures in certain angles that are flattering, but then like the gut, it was like starting to become a real problem. And I mean, I think it's still, still obviously is, because I think they're wanting to put on so much mass, like on those particular body parts, and
Yeah.
it seems like they're not paying attention to,
Mm-mm.
your midsection.
Well, and that's like breathing control, like being able to control your breathing, keeping your transverse abdominis tight. Like, that's the biggest thing. If you can't keep your transverse abdominis tight, it's just going to relax, and then your rectus abdominis, your six pack, is just going to relax over that,
Mhm.
and that's what you're seeing, is this turtle shell, happening with them. So I always, like, for instance, Rolly and folks like that had struggled really bad in the past, but then rectified that and fixed it. I think that's the coolest thing, when you can see somebody kind of own it and fix their problem. But you see it even in the very tiny waisted guys too. And I think that also goes back to my frustration with posing, when they're doing their quarter turns and then they relax in between. They'll do a front standing relax, then they'll do a quarter turn, but when they're doing it, they don't stay tight
Mhm.
and keep everything in. They just let it hang, then they get back into their quarter turn.
Mhm.
So again, it's like, this is entertainment too.
Right.
We are show, it's art. So we can't just sit there and, slack when it comes to that.
Right, and I would imagine it's an overall impression too. Like if you're a judge, I mean, because you can't. It's kind of like one of those situations in the courtroom where they say, "Well, scratch that from the record," but the jury already heard it, so they can't scratch.
Yeah.
Like it's impossible to scratch it from their minds, So Yeah, so it's like the same situation. So I think, yeah, it has to have an effect on how the judges view you, you know?
Yeah, completely. And that's, again, it's very subjective sport. So if you're dealing with judges that they're very critical of that, which a lot of them should be, then that's what you're going to get. It doesn't matter how great your back looks, doesn't matter how great your legs look, but if you can't control that, it takes away from the overall look.
Yeah.
So
I thought Brandon Curry looked pretty good
yeah,
as far as the midsection is concerned. Well, in general, but
yeah,
since we're talking about that,
yeah.
you know.
No, honestly, I mean, Brandon, as soon as he went over and worked with the folks at Oxygen, I think it transformed him.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at him before, he wasn't even in the game, before. And then as soon as he started working with them, he started free, and obviously Mr. Olympia.
Yeah.
I think it's a different story last Olympia if we had the other key players competing.
Sure.
But
because you had I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. Yeah.
Yeah, because you had who's the champion from the year before? Roden. It had those legal issues that I don't know what's going on with that. Like, have you heard anything? Is he still going through it?
I think he's still going through it, and I don't foresee him being able to compete. So I think it's
he's
just
probably out.
Yeah.
And Oxygen needed one because they weren't getting it from. You're gonna have to help me with these names. I keep forgetting.
I know. I honestly, I'd have to, with how many people they've worked with, because they've worked with a lot. Really?
No. The one from that area of the world. He's huge. Big Ramy. Big Ramy.
Big Ramy.
Yeah. So they were. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say he's another one that it's almost, even though he's brought such a nice structure overall and he's really showed up, and sometimes he has really good conditioning, it's still one of those freak statuses where he's such an outlier. So how do you give him Mr. Olympia? Because then nobody else even compares, and it just kind of throws out all of the rules pretty much, because beat him then. So it's just one of those situations. He's so big, and it would be kind of going the other direction again, I think, going to that extreme. So
yeah, I guess it's also like his conditioning wasn't like on point a lot of times, so that they penalized him severely for that.
Yeah, always. I mean, that's always been his big struggle. I think, was it the year he took second to Phil, best look he ever had, and that was like what, 4 years ago.
Yeah, that's when he worked with Chris Aceto, and I believe, if I'm not mistaken, and that was his best look. And then since then it's been kind of downhill. I know he had some injuries and so forth, but I mean, I guess it is what it is. You do your best and let the cards play out where they can. So
at the end of the day, I mean, that's all we can do is show up and see what we can do with what we're dealt. So
yeah, I definitely think Brandon, deserved the win. I also think if you gave it to Ashkenani, you wouldn't be robbing anybody either. So
he's actually not even being able to speak English, and the fact that he got the People's Champ Award and everything like that, just because of his spirit and how he came, like, really cool guy, cool.
It was a lot of hype with him coming into the States, because it was like he wasn't able to get a visa. Then like somehow they maneuvered it to where he was able to get one. So like, and people were following that whole ordeal. So when he came here, it was like people were already like excited to see him.
Totally. Well, and again, it was like, what is this dude gonna bring?
Right.
Freaky anyways, what can he bring? So, and he definitely brought it. I mean, he showed up. So
I don't think he disappointed anybody, that's for sure. Brandon just opened up a new gym here because he's here in Nashville, Tennessee, where I am. So I'm planning to go check it out. We'll see. Apparently it's pretty awesome. So I don't know. We'll see.
Is it from you? Is it pretty close?
I think it's 30-40 minutes. So
that's
nothing.
Does he live there, or does he, like, because I know he's gone over across. He's in the Middle East for what, 6 months of the year?
Yeah, so I think his family is here and stuff, but like, and I mean, this is, I think, his permanent residence here, but of course, you know, while he's competing, he's spending a lot of time there, you
Yeah,
know, so that's, I mean, you know,
that's
yeah,
and
that,
I give it up to his wife.
yeah, I mean, it's a family, you know, sport essentially, because like you need that support from your family to say, okay, we're good, go ahead and do your thing, so you don't have to worry about them here, you know.
Completely. You have to get pretty selfish with this sport. So
Yeah, definitely,
yeah,
definitely. Well, Heather, thank you so much for coming on
yeah.
the show. I think we
Ah,
did it. We
thank
did
you
a good
so.
amount of time.
My
Yeah,
pleasure.
no
Yes.
worries. Thank
All
you.
right.
Thank you so much. You take care. Have a
You
good
too. Bye bye.